Third meeting of the City of Sebastian Planning and Zoning Commission, and we'll begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The order of business. Roll call, please.
Mr. Roth.
Here.
Mr. Simmons.
Here.
Ms. Cottenberg.
Here.
Mr. Carter.
Present.
Mr. Reyes.
Present.
Mr. Motti.
Present.
Mr. Kisselbosch.
Here.
Mr. Hugan.
Here.
And Mr. Alvarez.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Announcements or agenda modifications. We have no particular announcements, but we would like to modify this evening's agenda, unless there's any objection, bringing the final item forward and making it the number one item. That would be item number 9, new business accessory structure. Unless there's an objection to that? Okay. And now we will, I will ask you all, you've had the opportunity to review the minutes of our previous meeting of April 19th. Are there any additions or corrections?
Yes, I do have 3 additions purely from a technical point of view. And I'll go through them quickly and then provide you my copy here to make sure they get corrected if it's approved. Page 6 of the minutes, the last paragraph, adding the word urgent in the second line, that's relative to the moving of the structure from Fort Pierce to Sebastian. So in other words, since there were urgent time constraints, adding that word there. And on page 7, the 4th paragraph down, the last line, actually adding a sentence. The previous sentence is, Peter Robinson spoke in favor of the proposed yellow color as it is connected to Henry Flagler, who did a lot of development along the east coast of Florida, adding many early railroad depots in Florida were painted yellow. And that would be the end of that change. And the other suggested change was on page 10, the very last paragraph. The first sentence was relative to Old Dixie Highway in the area of this community, adding, does the 2-lane road end where the new entrance is planned? With a question mark, and then continuing with Mr. Menching stated preliminary plan is to have a left turn only when coming out of the development, which is on the next page. So those are the 3 changes that I would like to add, just purely from a technical point of view.
Okay. Are there any other additions or corrections that anyone would like?
I wasn't here.
Okay. The chair will entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of April 19th, 2018, with the inclusion of the items that Mr. Roth mentioned on page 6, page 7, and page 10.
Is there a second to that? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Roth. Okay. Now we will ask for the presentation of the accessory structure at 480 Concha Drive.
Very well. Taking out of order, new business 9A is an application for an accessory structure, a detached garage pursuant to Land Development Code, Section 54-2-7.5 at 480 Concha Drive.
Thank you. And if you will identify yourself?
Yes, I'm Brian Flores. I'm the president of Brian Flores Contractors, the contractor of the job.
Okay.
Yes, it's Brian, B-R-I-A-N, Flores, F-L-O-R-E-S.
Okay. Can you tell us what you're doing? And
Yes, yeah, the homeowner is here with us if there's any questions, that I can't address. But ultimately, the accessory structure is to house his RV, his fifth wheel, really, and a spot to park his truck. So he's purchased a lot next to his home a while back and looking to build that detached garage, so to speak.
okay. Does anybody on the commission here have any questions regarding this?
I do, and that is relative to the driveways that are proposed for this. It looks to me like there are 3 proposed curb cuts. Maybe the staff could answer that. Has this been reviewed by the city engineer?
Yes, there is. Well, there's an existing concrete drive. Actually, there's 2 existing concrete drives, and they'll be requesting a third one, the most, let me get my bearings, the most eastern one there. Yes, it'll be reviewed. You can see they've already got the proposed pipes that go in. The code just gives regulations on the width and piping, drainage type of regulations, but there is no specific code regulating how many driveways you can have. So this will be reviewed by our engineering department, and it has already, the permit is in the permit's in the process, so that will be, as part of the engineering review, they'll make a decision on that. But I don't think it's gonna be a problem. We have other 3 driveways on double lots.
Okay, so should we approve this, that would not circumvent any approval by the city engineer?
Yes, your review is of the structure itself, to verify that it is starting to, it's matching the house, with regards to the landscaping and the, trees, and the structure itself and the use, but the driveway, we will make sure gets engineering approval before the permit's issued.
Thank you for clarifying that. Appreciate it.
Yes, I have one question for the contractor. On the site plan and looking at the plan itself that we have, it indicates a bathroom. Is that tying into the existing septic?
Yes, it is.
And for power, are you tying into the existing house, or is that going to have a separate power by its own self?
It'll be tying into the existing, so it'll
Okay.
have a sub panel, 200 amp.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I have a question. On most of the paperwork, it states a 1-story, but yet on page 2, or S2, it shows looks like a double pair of steps going up to a 2nd story.
Okay, that's technically a deck. I don't know if you would consider that a 2nd story, but it's a deck, because they're on Concha, right on the canal, and it's, the stairs are on the back side, and you can walk up to like a mansard type roof that overlooks the water back there.
Okay, so it's not a 2nd story building, it's just a deck.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a question about septic system. Have you checked with the health department?
Yes. Well, hold on.
You may have to increase the drain field.
Yeah, usually they don't require anything if it's not a bedroom, an additional bedroom. So if there was a bedroom in here, I would have to get approval from the health department.
Yeah, make sure you check that thing, the drain field is big enough, otherwise you might have to get more room from the driver's side.
Yes, yep. And the
also-
bathroom will actually be rarely used, you know,
Okay.
it's, for the location it is, it's just in the garage, so it's kind of a,
Your floor plan does not show those stairs going in the back, so,
okay.
so,
You mean on the survey?
now, on the floor plan, there's no stairs shown in the back of the house, back of the, storage.
Okay, yeah, I can certainly put that on the floor plan. So it's on all the other sheets, which was drawn by the engineer, so I'm not sure why he didn't,
Okay.
put that on the floor plan.
All right, that's the only question I have.
Any other questions?
I do, go ahead.
Sorry. I had some questions in reference to the peak height on your roof. What is the roof elevation?
Yeah,
Your
it's
finish
actually,
elevation of your roof in comparison to your existing structure?
yeah, we made sure that we stayed under that. We are about 6 inches lower than the existing structure that's there. And, yeah, we may, I just resubmitted the plans, actually lower the slab another 6 inches, which has been, you know, not an issue at this point. So it'll actually give us about a foot lower than the existing structure. But even as is now, we're 6 inches lower than the existing structure.
I see on this existing survey with the proposed site plan on it also, there is some trees shown on here. It's maybe 3 trees shown on the vacant lot. Is that all that's remaining after clearing?
Those will actually be cleared. So those trees will be, yeah, taken out. The palm, yeah, there's 2 palms, a pine, and, we'll be submitting a permit to remove that oak in the back, which I'm sure we'll have to, mitigate with 2 additional oaks in its place.
Is there a title of ownership between the 2 lots? I guess she answered that for me over there.
Yeah.
With a nod. Thank you. I was curious of any adjacent wells to this site. You say you're tying into this septic system. What is the capacity of that system now? Is that known?
Well, like I said, the health department only requires you, I'm not sure why this is the way it is, but the way it is they only require you to get permission is if there's an additional bedroom, for example, more, people staying in the home. So there's not additional people staying in the home, so whether he uses the bathroom in the house or the bathroom in the garage, it's still the same amount of usage.
My concern is the size of the structure. I mean, this is it's not just a garage. This is like another home. So I do see that the city has comments in reference to the landscape plans. I would normally want to see a landscape plan for this site, being such a big structure. I mean, we've gone through a lot of trouble of presenting all this, but we don't have a site survey of what existing plants are on the site and what you propose to do for the landscaping. So those are bringing up some questions to me. It's a really big structure. It's almost like another home on the site.
Okay, the existing trees are on the survey, so those are all there. But I do not have a landscaping plan as of this time, but I can certainly submit one,
Do
you know.
we get credits for both lots on this?
Yes,
Lori?
that's, and we have under my on my staff, report on the additional considerations, we did, based on time, not forget, but it was too close when the packets were going out to have them add the landscaping that's required per the code for the bushes around the building. And you can see my calculations, we subtract out your garage doors and the patios, but added in some sidewalk areas. So they will be required to have 34 hedge plants around the building. And we also, even though there are trees shown on the survey for the second lot, the existing trees for the home are not shown, which I'm presuming that they still have the 7 trees that were required when the house was CO'd at the time of the house was built. But we will verify before CO of the structure that both the hedges and there are 15 trees would be required on the.
He might have planted more since he built the house.
That's why I had
He'd get
mentioned that
more
they'll get
for
credit
it.
for what they have on the existing house. There will be some mitigation if the pine tree is a specimen tree, over a certain DBH, that there would be a 12-foot tree required, but we'll work out with them on with the landscaping and,
Okay.
and the hedging.
And the rear of the vacant lot where you propose all the work, the head wall back there, is not contiguous the whole property? Is a gap in there?
No,
Is there any plan to?
you're speaking of the seawall in the back?
I guess it's not a C there, so I
Yeah, yep. But the dock wall or whatever you want to call it, is continuous across both lots.
Okay, I have no further questions right now, thank you.
Thank you.
No, I'm fine.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. Is this in an area where we have question about the stability of the seawalls?
I'm not sure. I don't believe it is. It does go across the property. It is on the western part of Concha Drive. But I believe based on the positioning of the structure, it's way more back than the setbacks is required of the 20 feet. So, any structural integrity of this building being placed on that vacant lot would certainly be considered by our building department in issuance of that permit.
And I agree with Mr. Reyes. This is an extremely elaborate structure, much more substantial than we normally see. And I'm a little bit uncomfortable with a full bathroom and all of the access doors. For all the world, this looks like another potential living
Staff
arrangement.
we did require, if you notice on the floor plan, that we did have them label the uses of each area, so that it is spelled out that it is RV storage and a garage. And the bathroom, there is no wall in front of that bathroom. It's kind of an open bathroom. It has been explained as kind of the man cave, storage of some vehicles there. But yes, we did have them add the uses onto the floor plan, so it was clarified for any future owner too of what the intended uses were for the structure.
I just know from my experience that sometimes once everything's all enclosed, things change inside.
It's actually a non-air-conditioned space, so, there'll be no insulation, no drywall, so nobody's gonna wanna be in there, besides parking vehicles and that type of deal. If anybody was to want to inhabit it or something like that, obviously they'd have to insulate the whole thing and drywall it, add air condition and, all of that. So I think you would see that going on, possibly. And, the reason for the doors and stuff like that is we tried to make it look as much like the home as possible with the window in the front. And, we instead of keeping it just like a garage, as far as the specs we read, was it's supposed to look similar to the structure. So we went the same roof covering, stuccos, that type of deal, same windows,
It's
doors.
a very, very attractive, much more attractive than we normally see. And that's great. I just feel a little bit uncomfortable with how elaborate it is.
Okay. Well, it's actually, we would like it to be a little bigger to accommodate his fifth wheel and his truck. But given, our 1,000 square foot, we actually had to shrink it. We wanted the right side to be 33 feet, but we shrank it back to 28 to meet, your guys' criteria.
Okay.
I have one further question. I'm looking at these drawings. I need a little further assurance about the height of the structure because I'm looking at the drawings you submitted, and in retrospect, comparing the drawings of the addition to the garage, it does look quite a bit higher, and yet you say you're dropping it 6 inches, and it will be now lower than the roof line of the house?
Yeah, well, it currently is lower by 6 inches, and we dropped it another 6 inches. So I had to get the surveyors back out to survey the lots next door to make sure we could lower it, but we were still, within tolerance of where we could drop it, so we dropped it another 6 inches.
I was by and I looked. I noticed that lot is a little bit lower, but I was looking at this, and that's what kind of alarmed me when I saw the drawing, because there's nothing here relative to the peak of the big structure to the peak of the house.
Okay.
It's just going from dimensions, and that's
Yeah, well,
what raised the concern.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It does comment on his plan that, 1 inch below house roof is the maximum height. So they have a place in there for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I too saw that. I just needed a little more reassurance, that's all.
Yeah, but when you, scale it out, you know, and I can definitely, you know, bring you a plan that shows you the height. But if you scale it out, it is, 6 inches lower than what's existing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I guess, does anyone else have anything? No? Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the accessory structure review at 480 Concha Drive for a detached garage, with the conditions that there be submitted a landscape plan showing proper foundation plantings, hedge plants, and trees to be compliant with city code.
Do we have a second for that?
I'll second the motion.
Would it be okay, though, to continue on with the building permit and the landscape plan that shows the trees and landscaping submitted to new development, we'll stamp off on it, not, so that it won't hold up the building permit, so they can continue on with the review, and we'll make sure before the building is issued its final, certificate of occupancy. We'll make sure that those plants and trees are on the property.
Madam Chairman, I'll amend my motion to exclude that condition.
And will the second agree?
Agreed, second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We have a public hearing, and I would like to open the hearing for item number A, recommendation to the City Council, large-scale comprehensive plan future land use amendment.
Yes, Madam Chair, this is a comp plan amendment, recommendation to the council to change land use from a designated county use of R rural to City of Sebastian use CG, commercial general. This is in the 8400 block of County Road 510.
Okay. Has anyone on the commission had any ex parte communication?
Oh, ma'am, this is a public hearing, but it's not quasi-judicial.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay, will the applicant please make their presentation?
Good evening. My name is Joseph Schulke. I'm with Schulke, Biddle and Stoddard of Vero Beach, Florida. I am also a resident of the city of Sebastian. I'm here representing Graves Brothers, who is proposing an annexation and a comprehensive plan land use amendment here in the city of Sebastian. Now, from what I understand, we're actually just talking about the comp plan amendment and not the annexation. The annexation goes right to the city council in about 2-3 weeks. Is that correct? So I guess we're going on the assumption that the city council decides to annex to the property, and if they were to annex us the property, we'd be considering the land use amendment. The comp plan, the year 2010, actually indicates that the city should encourage any voluntary annexations to also seek a comprehensive land designation during that time frame. So that's what we're doing. The timing that we're doing, why we're doing it now, is because we want to go to city council with both the annexation and the comp plan amendment at the same time. Annexations just go to them, comp plans come to you first and then them. So that's why you're hearing us tonight. The property is on the north side of 510, it abuts the city limits, over in the Laconia area, south of the south prong of the Sebastian River Creek. There's a project, that was called Blue Water Bay, where you see the walls and fences and stuff right at the corner of the bend of 510. This is just a little bit, I would say about maybe a half mile east of that property, and it's right along the canal. I think it's Lateral C Canal, which has got a little bridge, and it's right east of that Lateral C Canal. Lateral C Canal drains thousands of acres to the south in River County, heads north, right along our property, and goes into the Sebastian River, right at the headwaters of the Sebastian River, and where the city's drainage area also drains. So it's 66-acre property, and we're asking for a designation of commercial general when and if we're annexed into the city. The reason we went with the commercial general designation and the justification for it, there's many reasons, but primarily from the city's perspective, if you read the comprehensive plan in 2010 year-based amendments, you'll see that the city had worked out an agreement with the county identifying areas that would be kind of reserved for the city to annex into the county. And that includes this property, I mean, not into the county, but from the county. That includes this property and a lot of properties south of 510. And so it's kind of like a reserve area, then it's identified in the year-based amendment 2010. The city's comp plan also very clearly indicates that the city is short right now on commercial property, industrial property, and multifamily property, and needs to add that to their land, either by changing land uses of current land uses or when you annex, adding these properties. The comp plan and year-based amendments also specifically say that 510 corridor is a great area for commercial, and the city should be looking towards that area for both annexation to expand the commercial, industrial uses and multifamily uses that they are in need of. So this property kind of fits that bill very well. Now, why that property instead of others on 510? Because there is a lot of property along 510 that's designated. This is one of the main properties, the location that's going to be on a pretty significant intersection. Right now, in Erie County and FDOT are preparing or have prepared plans, and I brought them if you'd like to see them, where they're extending 82nd Avenue from its current location where it terminates at 69th Street all the way to 510. That's right at the corner of this property. And then further improving all of 82nd Avenue from State Road 60 to 510. That's going to be basically the new truck route from 512 to State Road 60. It's going to be 82nd Avenue, which terminates right at the corner of this site. So you're going to have a significant intersection there. You're going to have a lot of traffic there. It makes sense to have the commercial. Also, the city, why not have this commercial here? You know, as well as I do, that it seems like we lose a lot of business, a lot of sales, a lot of employment opportunities to the south. And this is just another opportunity for the city of Sebastian to capitalize on future commercial development, the tax base. I submitted a report. Now, the part of the report that talks about the tax base and fiscal analysis is for the annexation, but I'm sure you've all seen it. And it's pretty well documented that commercial properties are a net positive benefit to any city. I did a specific one for this project as well, and it is a net positive fiscal benefit to the city. So we think it makes sense because of the location. We think it makes sense because the city comp plan identifies this area for annexation and identifies this area in need of commercial and industrial property and multifamily property. So it makes absolute sense. Now, I did mention multifamily, and the reason is because the commercial general land use in the city of Sebastian does support RM6 type development or multifamily development. So this property would be able to be developed not only as commercial, but as like maybe a mixed use with some multifamily. So you can fit that bill too. The city doesn't have a mixed use comp plan. They just have either, you know, so the best case scenario to meet all these requirements would be the commercial general, which would allow some light industrial, would allow commercial, and it would allow multifamily on that property in the future. So that's why we're here tonight, just to secure our land use, the recommendation from this body to the city council, which we'll go to in a couple weeks. That is my summary. I'm happy to answer any questions of you. that are either in my report or things that you, might have thought of. And so thank you.
Okay. We'll start on this end, and we'll just run right down.
I have a question. What is the projected timeline of this project if it's approved?
It's generally hard to say. We have to get annexed first, get our zoning, get the land use, but, I think it really will follow the 82nd Avenue and 510 improvement plans. And it looks like probably the widening of 510 to 4 lanes will happen probably about 2021, 22, and 82nd Avenue will happen in that time frame too, maybe a little bit sooner. So, when the improvements are made to the roads, they can handle the capacity for this development as well as any others. It's going to be a 4-lane section, and as well as when 82nd Avenue comes in, it's going to be it's a 2-lane road, but a wide 2-lane road with 12-foot lanes both ways and a large shoulder for bike lanes on 82nd Avenue. So it's going to make it a nice intersection. So I think it's probably going to be kind of concurrent with that if I were to guess, but I don't know for certain.
Thank you.
Kieselbach?
Yes. Who owns that property north of this parcel, the small parcel along the canal?
The city of Sebastian owns everything. Oh, there's a little.
The parcel north of that, yeah.
Yeah, it's not north of our property, but it's north of a third of our property, or the eastern portion I think you're talking about.
It's the northeast quarter of the southeast quarter, right on the canal, north side of this parcel.
So you can see what you're talking about.
It's a small parcel with that.
Are you talking about the approximately 40-acre parcel to the northeast of us?
North of this parcel along the canal.
That is a City of Sebastian and the Sebastian River Improvement District on those properties. They're right away.
That's right, Dora?
Yes, sir. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Yes, sir. The right-of-way of the canals is owned by the Indian River Canal District. I think they changed their name, if I'm correct.
So this parcel
And
is already in the
all the
city?
canals is all by publicly owned. Now, there is a small portion in the L shape, if that's what you're talking about, that is under private ownership, and I can, ascertain that they have been notified about this change
That
in
is
land use.
already in a city limit?
I'm sorry?
That parcel, small parcel, is already in city limit?
No, sir. No, sir. That is in the county, if that's your question.
Okay, that's what my question is. It's not a city.
That is your question, yes. He should have a copy of the survey.
I have a copy of survey.
But if he's talking about
The Elkham drainage
Elkham.
right away, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
everything south of the Elkham Canal is still in the county.
okay. That's it.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Can I walk?
Yeah, this is the parcel.
Oh, that property there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the north side.
Yeah, I don't know the exact property owner, but they were notified.
Yeah, my main concern is who's the owner, is in Indian River County or still in the city? So it's,
It is in the county, and they have been notified of this change.
okay,
Okay,
that's it.
thank you. Yep.
Sir, as I drove through the area and looked at the parcel today, I looked at the surrounding residential areas. You're asking for a commercial general, and the commercial general allows all uses permitted in RM8. What would your anticipation be on how many residential or multifamily units would you put in there if you could not get the commercial development that you're seeking, if you did not have the tenants?
It's a hard question to answer, because a lot of things depends on the economy, on the market, what have you. The city would allow us up to 8 units per acre on the area designated for residential. There's 66 developable acres. We're going to lose right-of-way, land for right-of-way dedications on 510 and the extension of 82nd Avenue. There's a wetland area in the site and a buffer, so there's probably 50 to 52 net acres of developable area, I estimated in this report. If there was 30 acres that was developed in commercial and 20 acres of residential, then, 20 times 8, it'd be what, 160 units, potentially?
Well, the
And I'm
reason,
just guessing, you know, I'm
well,
just-
the reason I ask, we just looked at some 800 units coming into the town, and we keep looking at more and more residential units, and that's why I wanted to see what your plan was for the future in the event you did not develop it as commercial, and you
Yeah.
went to the RM8.
And I can't answer that question because there's not a plan in place by my client at this point. There's just, we're securing the commercial general, land use designation and, request to be annexed into the city. But, he does not have a plan at this point. He's Gray's Brothers, he's a large landowner in Indian River County, he owns several thousand acres. And, at this point, that's what we're securing. He doesn't have a plan in place right now. So the only thing I can venture to guess is what could possibly be there. And I think you guys could probably do the same. What can you envision being there? And I can envision it being a mixed-use project that would have anywhere from, 100 to 200 units and maybe, and a commercial component as well.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Roth?
82nd Avenue is on which side of that, canal?
It is it's going to be on the east side of the canal and the west side of this property. It's going to be directly between us and the canal. That's the extension of it, but, envision it going south of us and continuing. There's an aerial on the report that I submitted to you. It's actually, I think, the very last page.
Okay, I'm looking
And if you look at that, you'll see we kind of drew, where that 82nd Avenue would be.
Is that the crisscross hatched area?
Yes, sir.
And what does that connect to? Is that 82nd, is that gonna connect to Laconia, or?
Well, right now, it would just come into our site. It would make sense that we would extend, say, 82nd Avenue through. It does more or less align with Laconia. Whether Laconia comes through or not, I think is probably gonna be up to the city council, and funding as well. If you look at the comp plan, the city's comp plan, their future land use element, there are many sections of it that say Laconia should go through and south, and connect to 510 in the future. And I think that's primarily probably, for traffic reasons, for evacuation route, those type of things. The city doesn't have a lot of opportunities, a lot of areas where it can connect to go south. And as you know, if you live in the city of Sebastian, I live in San Sebastian Springs, I either have to go Barber all the way through and around, or around 510 and 512 to get to Vero. So when you're talking about getting out of the city or going south, it's difficult at times.
Well, that was why I asked what it was gonna connect to, because, we've had situations develop where roads have dead-ended and then, we connect to it, and it opens up the possibility of a lot more traffic, and that's why I was asking what it connects to, because driving around over there in Laconia, I noticed it's a one-way street right now, and it would be doubled, and it would be, well, I'm not in a commission, that's their purview to decide which way they want to go with that.
Yeah, I couldn't say, the comp plan identifies Laconia going through, but it's been that way for probably 20 years and it hasn't happened, so.
Longer.
Yeah.
Longer. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Reyes? Oh, I'm sorry. Were you?
Sorry, I have one other. Of the staff, question, when that is extended, who, will fund the financial aspect of extending, 82nd Street or Avenue?
Well, first of all, let's make sure that we clarify that the DOT is bringing 82nd Avenue just to 510 at this point. I just want to make sure that everyone's clear on that, and that there are no plans at this point to extend 82nd Avenue north to the river. So there are no plans, there are no proposed funding, so I really couldn't answer that question as to who would be responsible for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
checked the files that I had, and I didn't see anything either, so, okay, that was the extent of my questions.
Mr. Reyes?
I recall way back, it might have been around 2010, where the city was doing something for a park site at the end of the South Pond, where they were trying to acquire some property there. Dory, would you be familiar with that?
On Stonecrop, there is some city-owned property. It was a canoe launch. Now, at the end of Laconia, where it does turn into a one-way, to the west of that, there's, it was called Turtle Grove subdivision.
Yeah, I
with that
remember it
development,
being-
and we were hoping to get some additional right-of-way to widen Laconia Street. I think the biggest hurdle for the extension is having to go over the South Prong, the river. Whether it's a bridge or whatever it is, that's gonna be the hurdles to connect those streets, but no park or anything.
This was on the adjacent property to the east, and it's almost at the terminus of the South Prong. I recall doing some work on that property for the city, and I thought it was to acquire the property for a park. So I was curious on that. The other understanding is, I believe this DOT, proposed improvement is for a truck route to eliminate some of the trucks going through our city. Is that correct? Is that not a proposed truck route to get you to
It's a designated truck route to go from 512 to 510 to 82nd Avenue to State Road 60.
So it'll be a lot of 18-wheelers, big trucks.
Well, they call it a truck route. I don't know what that means.
It's almost like a Chrome Avenue truck route.
In the past, it was 58th Avenue, then it was 66th Avenue, and it was really like the Citrus Highway. It was for the citrus at the time, and I don't know if that's what they're still thinking, but there's still a lot of
I understand we're trying to annex property and bring more property in the city, but I hate affecting possible wetlands and all this beauty of this property in this area. When you can look adjacent to this area, and there's plenty of grove property that's just, there's no wetlands or anything else like that on it. The South Prong it's not a man-made wetland or anything like that. And most of this stuff that's draining off of that, that's coming south, that you guys are saying is possible wetlands. Do we have a report yet, or was that too early on that? Because that is wetlands, in my opinion. And the amount of work I've done with wetlands, I'm seeing this as wetlands, and we're gonna be affecting a lot of that. Now, you say you're gonna end up with maybe 50 acres to develop, so you're thinking there's only 16 acres of wetlands in there? I have a hard time believing that. So that's some of my concerns, and I would definitely think that if you do this future expansion of the road going through there, you may get some of the truck route traffic coming up to there, and then maybe coming into our city streets through Lagonia and continuing, creating some issues there. That was some of my comments. Thank you.
Mr. Alvarez?
Yeah, I will shadow his, Mr. Reyes' comments also, and to my concern about Laconia later on, being opened up and all this traffic, commercial and all that going there, and also the wetlands. So, but that's it. I'm just repeating what he said, and I agree with him.
Mr. Simmons?
I'm okay.
Okay, that leaves me. I know that this is, we're trying to predict something that as yet has not been planned, and that is perhaps folly. But I also know that anything that was not within our boundary, we have absolutely no control over. I also know that any future development of the land must be approved piece by piece, which gives me a good deal of assurance that this body will not allow anything tacky or disgusting to happen in our fair city. And I also think that we are a long way away from using Laconia, based on my number of years here and the difficulty in getting over the river and through the woods, and who would pay for it. I think so. So I guess personally, I don't have a problem with this. I think it's something that the city will need, and I think it would be a good addition to the city, and I like the idea that we'll have some viability and something that may cover its own cost. So I don't have a problem with it.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
You may want to consider getting staff's position and public input before you start deliberating. It kind of sounds like we've somehow kicked into deliberation.
I don't think we're deliberating. I think we're discussing. But yes, we will definitely take public input, starting now.
I would just like to, thank you for giving me the opportunity to, discuss this with you and answer your questions. I'm still available after, any of the public gets up if you would like me to try to address anything for them.
Thank you.
And, that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will begin by asking members of the public who are in favor of this proposal. Please identify yourself and spell your name.
Ben Hocker, Hocker, Sebastian. I had questions on this with the annexation, plus you've talked about the possible bridge over a portion of the wetlands. And you're going to, this commercial general or general commercial, if in the future this person decides not to put in commercial buildings, under commercial general, does this allow apartment complexes in the total area? I don't know that much about this zoning. And it might be a question that if the land sits vacant for a while, that's a very undeveloped area along 510. We've got commercial areas here with warehouses, they're empty. Is it feasible that this could turn into a complete apartment complex in the general commercial zoning? That's a question.
It's a question, and I can't predict the future.
Well, can somebody do that with the property under general commercial?
Madam Chair, under commercial general land use category, it is in your packet, general retail sales and services, highway-oriented sales and services, and other general commercial activities, including hotels and motels, or residential complexes or other transient quarters. So to answer your question, yes, it could become a mixed-use development with commercial and high-density residential.
Thank you for that.
That's where my question came.
Thank you.
It's hard to predict the future of what the property's going to be used for, but it could be a total complex of apartments. I thank you for not calling the public on your prior hearing. There were some questions I definitely had on that, and I'll speak at the public input for that. Thank you.
Again, anyone from the public who is in favor of this, please. Seeing none, those opposed, if there are any, please come and address us.
My name is Nikki Grant, and I've Nikkii, Grant. And I've never.
Could you speak real close to the microphone?
Yeah, I've never been here before, and I've not done this.
We don't bite.
But I
It's
got
okay.
the notice in the mail, and I live on Laconia, and I'm one of the houses that's actually the last four on the end of Laconia, so that waterway is my backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And after listening to his proposals, my concern is that he really couldn't answer many specific questions or plans, and I think it's a bit premature to approve something when he can't answer specific questions about the plans that are pending on this or pending on that. And I do have a big concern that to make something commercial on that side of the Elkham Waterway, or whatever they're calling it now, is going to create a larger drainage demand on that area. And as it is now, whenever it rains hard, like we get a bad storm or a hurricane, I've lived there for 20 years. In the last 5 years, I've seen the water rising higher on average than it did the year before. Every year it keeps getting higher and higher. And this year with the last hurricane we had, it came all the way up to my screen room and had never done that before. So to tell me there's more demand, there's more water going into it than used to be. And I think that needs to be a big concern if they're going to change land use on the other side of that canal. And I don't really want a truck yard in my back, a truck route going through the highlands either, but I know that that's another issue. But those were my objections.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Anyone else have anything to discuss? Okay, now, if we could deliberate.
Madam Chair, should you ask the staff for their report?
That's a good plan. Staff, please.
Not that I need my minute on TV, but I think it's part of the process. So if you don't mind, I will just walk you through very quickly some of the considerations that you must make in determining a change in future land use. I'm so sorry. As we all know, where the location of this piece of property is, we want a primary consideration in the allocation of lands for future commercial developments is the size of the primary market area. And what has been presented is that projections of future commercial land is low in Sebastian compared to other communities in the state. And what that is stating, and this is directly from your comprehensive plan and the 2010 evaluation and appraisal report, which states that the city of Sebastian, in their mix of commercial and other land uses, we are much lower than in other areas of the state. And I think that's an important consideration to be made this evening, as well as that there's a projection within the existing comprehensive plan that places the need for additional commercial at approximately 205 acres over our existing uses. Now, this is 2008 numbers, so we know that it's probably a little less, but it's still significant as compared to what we have available. If you'll also follow along in the staff report, some of the other considerations are changing conditions. This property is of agricultural use now, but it is really vacant, fallow orange groves. I believe there might be cattle on it. And it is showing a change in conditions, and it is no longer economically viable for that agricultural use, which is relatively sad for the state of Florida, but it is a pattern that is being determined through many areas of Florida, especially along the 510 corridor. Land use compatibility, the change in land use provides for a higher intensity of use than the current land use. That's for certain. However, future demands for commercial development along the widened and improved 510 and future extension of 82nd Avenue supports the future needs for this use. In addition, adequate public facilities have been shown to be available in this area for commercial use. 510 has all of the, has a force main for sewer and it has water. FDOT has big plans on improving and widening 510. And again, I know that the bridge over the river and connecting Laconia south has been on the books for a long time, but I really want to emphasize that there are no plans, we have no engineering plans, we have no future funding in mind for it. And to also assure you that truck routes are typically, truckers, people who drive these vehicles want roads that are wide and straight. They do not want narrow, winding neighborhood roads and wouldn't drive through neighborhoods. And so it is in the design of, if we did a future extension of Laconia, we would make sure that that road was not compatible with a truck route. So I don't want that that consideration to be lost in what we should be looking at for future land use. As far as natural environments, number 14, we do recognize that there are some significant ecological environments on that property, and we'll be working. They are jurisdictionally regulated by federal and state and county, and so we will be looking at where those are. We certainly will be having wetland jurisdictional determinations prior to any type of development on that property, and we'll make sure that they are properly protected and or mitigated for. Economic effect, I think we've kind of talked about that already, that commercial land use provides a higher potential for revenue to the city because it has a lower service cost. Commercial land use doesn't require as much service expenditure from our city, any municipality, compared to a commercial land use. And that's just economics. So we see that as a higher potential for revenue. Orderly development, the comprehensive plan does identify a need for commercial development to meet projected 2025 growth, and the comprehensive plan and 2010 year recommends that the city should seek to annex areas south of the city along the CR 510 corridor within the urban service boundary. So those are some of the considerations that need to be made when you are considering a future land use change. And so in conclusion, the requested land use change from R County to CG is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission forward a favorable recommendation to the City Council to approve the requested land use change. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And that was a very thorough report. Discussion?
Excuse me?
Could we have some more discussion? No?
I have a question, and that is, how can we change a land use if it's not in the city?
Right.
Madam Chair.
That's,
So what you are doing tonight is that you are recommending a
we're not doing
change
anything.
in land use. And there are several ways that a piece of property can come and request voluntary annexation to a city. Sometimes you want to go first to the city council to ask for that annexation prior to going through the land use and the zoning changes you've all just experienced. Or they can come first to the city and request a recommendation for the land use and then bring both to the city council. It's a little bit more consistent and time saving to do it that way. But please just be aware, you are only making a recommendation for the land use change. It'll be up to the city council to determine if this land should be annexed in.
So the annexation and the land use would take
Be
place
heard
at the same time?
That is correct, sir, yes.
Okay. Okay, and I think the other matter, I think it's good that we bring additional pieces of land in. There is another step where the final site plan would come back to this commission. So for those residents out there wondering what's going on, that is another step. Just be alert to follow through the process. Okay.
Mr. Reyes.
I had a question from staff on the Indian River County future land use map. The piece up at 512 and 510. What is that zone? Commercial, industrial? It's outside our boundaries. I'm just CI is commercial, industrial.
Yes, sir, it's commercial industrial. If the red.
Would the staff be able to share some other properties that the city's been looking at to annex?
Sir, we are not looking for property to annex. No, sir. These are voluntary annexations that are coming to the city
to us.
and making the request. Yes, sir.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
I just have one comment. I think it's time to move on this. It's an excellent proposal.
Mr. Alvarez?
No, I have no comments.
Okay. No further discussion?
I have one more comment.
Yes, sir.
So this will be isolated parcel along 510, which will be annexed in the city, right? There's no other parcel along that section, which is in the
Along
city.
510, yes, sir, we actually have a pretty large PUD that is in the city. Just,
I'm talking about on the east-west section of 510. There's no other parcel.
And it was called River Oaks Preserve, if you
Okay, we
remember.
have that
It was,
one.
and it's east of this property, about another quarter mile, and it was for 400 and some homes.
Okay.
and it is currently undeveloped.
And previous approvals have been,
Okay.
they're no longer.
One more question, just point of clarification on my part, and that is, in the flood zone hazard, it's mentioned, the southernmost 10% is zone AE. Excuse me for not looking it up prior, I'm just curious, what is AE?
I believe, and Mr. Schulke can verify for me, I believe AE is within the 100-year?
Yep.
Yes, within the 100-year. With the base flood established. Thank you, Ms. Bosworth.
Okay. Then we will entertain a motion to make a recommendation to the city council.
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion that the Planning and Zoning Commission forward a favorable recommendation to the City Council to approve the requested land use change to general commercial by the applicant Graves Brothers Company for the Section 25, Township 31 South, Range 38 East, of approximately 75 acres.
I'll second it.
Excuse me, that's 66.87 acres along 510.
I was going by under item A, is listing the parcel being 75 acres.
75 acres, I hear you.
Okay. And we have a second?
Yes.
Mr. Ross, second. I think we'll take a voice vote on this. Please call the vote.
Mr. Reyes?
No.
Mr. Roth?
Yes.
Mr. Alvarez?
No.
Mr. Kizzelbosh?
Yes.
Mr. Eugen?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Ms. Cottenberg?
Yes.
So that's 5 yes and 2 no.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is a quasi-judicial public hearing. Site plan modification for Sunshine Early Learning Center.
Go get him, Tiger.
Existing childcare facility.
Thank you.
Yes, I am Tahir Kizalbash, engineers for this project.
We just need to get his recusal on the record
correct.
Yes, I would
first
recuse
before-
myself for voting there.
Thank you. Has any other member,
Step down.
pardon me?
You stepped down from the DS.
Yes, I understand that.
I'm
Has,
already down here.
has any other member of the commission had any ex parte communication with any of the parties?
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure this is correct. Have you signed the conflict
No.
form already?
No.
If you could, real quick, sign it and hand it to the clerk before,
Okay.
because the law says that you're supposed to submit the form before the hearing. So we just want to make sure we have our ducks in a row.
Otherwise, we might be accused of collusion. Sorry about that, I couldn't help it.
That's a bad
Couldn't
word.
help it.
We usually get it
Most-
attached to the meetings, but
Yeah.
this is good that we're.
Most conflicts don't require this level, but since it's such a direct conflict, we have to have it in writing. Thank you. Please.
Excuse me, Mr. Stokes, do we need to swear the witnesses in?
For the quasi judicial, yes, we do, thank you.
Enough of that word, yeah.
Anybody who is going to, this is a quasi judicial matter, so anybody who is going to speak on this matter, if you could stand and raise your right hand, including staff and the applicant. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, I'm the engineer for this project, and this is Sunshine Learning Center, is existing child care facility, which is mentioned on 1001 Roseland Road. And it is surrounded by two other streets. One is on north side is Riviera Avenue, on the south side is Fulton Way. The existing building is 2,400 square feet. It has a parking lot and retention area. And the existing parking area is not a good shape, and we're adding a new building, 2,100 square feet. And we have to abandon the existing septic system, and for both buildings will be connected with the county force main. And the existing parking area will be removed and repaved with a new concrete surface. The retention area will be readdressed, and there'll be a curb around the retention area and parking area. And it will be, the movement of the traffic will be same as it is right now. It's a one-way. From Fulton Street will be entrance and going out on Revere Avenue. And there's already sign there, enter sign and no exit sign from the certain both direction. And landscaping is, there's so many trees existing already, and which is, according to calculation, it's required 39 trees, but we have more than that with the credit. But still, we'll be adding 4 canopy tree along the Roseland Road, and we're adding bushes along both streets, and we're also adding some understory bushes. And that's what it is right now. So we're providing 25 parking spaces, which require only 14 parking according to our calculations. And we have 2 compact parking and 1 handicap, and 22 is the regular size.
Staff?
Yes, as Mr. Kizilbosh has explained, and I would like to clarify, I believe the public notice that went out to the neighbors, and I also have it on the agenda. I apologize, I have this as a 2,550 square foot addition. It is 2,150 square feet, so it is actually smaller than was on the public notice. So I apologize for that. This is an existing site. It's been there for a long time. What's unique about this site is that it has 3 front yards. It does not have a side or rear yard. It abuts 3 different streets. So in essence, a lot of the site issues were grandfathered in with the original site. When they approached staff and had meetings with us regarding the building addition, we did pull the previous site plan. There were some trees missing along Rosen Road, and that's why the addition of those trees, to kind of get it in compliance with the original site plan. There's certainly a lot of oak trees. They did their best to place the building without removing some of those. There is going to be a new fence that's going to be around the building. The original permit, childcare in the RS10 is a conditional use criteria, and we've added in your staff report the conditional use criteria that they had to meet this new building, which we have noted that they do. This is, as I understand the state licenses for daycare, they have an established capacity or the amount of children that they can have based on their state license. And it ties in with with how much play area they have in the back. This is not changing the state license to add additional children. I don't know, I believe it's 70. I don't know if they're at capacity,
70, yeah.
but this is not changing the state license. It's just going to create some additional area for the children so they have more room for inside. There'll be a connecting roof, a rain canopy to go from building to building. And they've actually with the movement of the fence, we'll be creating larger play areas in the rear. Staff, let me see, I believe at a last minute, we did receive from our consulting engineer, they still had 3 issues that they had kind of seen on the revised plan. It wasn't anything that would prevent this from coming forward to you. We feel that they could be conditions. They are noted on page 7. They just wanted the invert, the dimensions or elevations for the proposed 12-inch pipe connecting the 2 detention areas, to just add those to the plan. Provide a section detail of the grass parking area. That would just be something that would be added to a sheet. And place a one-way only sign along the driveway leaving the parking lot heading north. I don't think these were any site, major hurdles for the site, so we've added them as conditions.
The pipe which is connected to the both pond is called equalizer pipe. Usually the equalizer pipe is as the same invert, which is the pond invert. So that's why it's not, but I could write
Yes,
on that.
these are just additions to the site plan that the
And
consulting city engineer needed.
I don't remember there's a one-way sign, but we could put a one-way sign there. And as far as the grass section for that, there's an invert shown, the grade shown on the grass area and the paved concrete area. So I could make a new section, there's no problem.
And our second recommended condition is that if the state licensing capacity changes, if it does go to 90 children or 100 at any time, that they let the city be aware of that, and we would relook at parking calculations, but they have 11 additional parking spaces already, which is based on the number of children, and so they should be good. But we would just like to be aware so we can add that to our site file.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, if you'd like to address questions to the staff or the presenter? Anyone? Don't let me down, Mr. Reyes.
I'll ask a couple questions. Maybe the architect, is there any green elements in this design? Like green build elements?
I don't think so.
Materials, is asphalt in your driveway, your
No,
parking?
it's concrete.
It's concrete.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Concrete is cheaper than asphalt, so.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions, either of the staff or the presenter?
General question, probably of the staff. You made it under 12, or I believe it's 14. No, it's out of order. It's page 5. You made a reference to about 80 new trips would be generated in traffic flow, and that wouldn't be enough to generate a new traffic study. What is the threshold that a new study would be required? In other words, what I'm getting at is if the capacity does go up to more students, how would we be aware of that to be able to do the new study to make sure the traffic flow is right?
So we require, based on the use, and there's I think it's International Traffic Engineer Manual, there are calculations on trips generated based on use and size, and we require that statement. If it's over 100, that is the threshold that would trip a full traffic analysis. Now we're looking more at the roads, the intersection, the lights, timing, and all that. This did not trip this. But again, we wanted to emphasize that we don't expect additional the capacity to go up on the state license. So the 80 trips that we didn't feel, and Roseland is a collector road, so the 80 trips is going to be minimal on the level of service for Roseland Road.
If there are no other questions from the commissioners, then we'll open the floor to anyone who is in favor of this project. If anyone here is in favor, please come forward and identify yourself. Yes, sir.
Am I allowed to be in favor of it? I'm the architect.
You could certainly be in favor of it.
My name is Robert Brody, B-R-O-D-I-E.
Any questions of the architect?
I think the project functions really well. I've worked with Ronnie and Linda Itzak for a number of years, actually about 4 years. And we've looked at this project in many different ways. I tried to turn it into a Taj Mahal, but, you know, architects are not always successful with that. But I think that we've done a really good effort in making the project function really well on the site. We got actually a really good benefit from the existing building that was built, that the type of truss overhang on this building and is a different, it's a 3-foot overhang, but the overhang on the new building is only 2 feet. But the way the trusses were originally built has allowed us to get the soffits to meet each other exactly. And so we have a rain canopy that protects the kids while they're entering the main building and then going underneath the rain canopy into the new building. And so it's really going to be a nice transition with the soffit being all one level. I don't know if that bores you, but I get turned on by this kind of stuff.
That kind of interested me. You mentioned the rain canopy, and when I was mentioning green build, I'm curious as to maybe storing water on site, you know, trapping it. This is a learning center for our children. I'm curious if we're, you know, maybe teach them how to preserve certain things, you know. And I'm curious if you did put a water storage where you're catching the rainwater off of the structure, if it would give Mr. Kissenbar some credits, or if he wouldn't have had to put these huge retention areas in the front. Just curious. I've seen some talk about green build in the past, so just was wondering if any of that was looked at.
Right, we didn't do that, and I think it would have been a neat idea. We do have a lot of mulch around the new building, instead of using grass, so I think that was a good sustainable idea.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Sir, on your playground area, is that ADA?
On the what?
On your playground area for the children?
Is it ADA approved?
Yes.
Well, it's an existing playground. We added some other concrete surfaces. We do, on the new building, we have, and I've worked with Wayne Esseltine on several meetings about this. The finished floor of the building will be the same level as the sidewalk outside of the new building and the existing building. There will be an ADA threshold, approved threshold, separating the new space inside and the sidewalk perimeter outside the new building.
And the playground itself?
I didn't look at the playground. That's perhaps a good question.
Yeah, it is, as is mentioned, the sidewalk and building elevation is almost same as meet with the ADA requirement, and the playground area is surrounded by fence, wood fence, is all flat level. This is meet with the requirement for the young kid. There's no other ADA requirement for that play area. So that's the only thing, make sure they don't strip on the sidewalk. It should be same level.
All right. A question on the retention ponds. What is the depth of those?
Those front one is both are 2 feet deep. Yeah.
2 feet deep?
Yeah.
Both of them?
Right, both of the 2 feet deep.
I always look on the side of safety when we talk about children.
Mm-hmm.
And children have a tendency to get away from parents every now and then. Would there be any consideration of additional landscaping around those retention ponds to act as a buffer?
Okay.
Would that be
There
some
won't be any
consideration?
child in a parking area. There won't, near the retention pond, there won't be any child. Parents will come and drop the child inside the building, and they pick from the inside building and go there. There won't be any play area near the retention area.
I understand that, sir.
Yeah.
But at times, children do have a tendency to wander away from their parents when they go into cars and stuff like that. That's the only reason I asked.
Yeah.
Caution for safety.
But 2 feet is, if it's 3 feet, I'll be worried about that thing. It's only 2 feet, so state requirement is if anything more than 3 feet, you need a fence around that thing. So this is only 2 feet deep there.
A child can drown in 6 inches of water, sir.
Yes, I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Quizzlebosh, question. I've been busily looking through it. I made a notation, I can't find it on the drawing, but I made a note, the overhangs, and where the proposed building is going, I saw a reference to the fact that it was not an emergency exit between the two buildings past the fence to the front. I see it on, the Vieira Avenue side, the Fulton Avenue side, but I don't see any reference in that center where you go out of the back of the existing building and connect to the proposed building. There is a fence connecting there, but I didn't see an emergency exit.
There's I think 6 or 7 doors on the building. Yeah.
There are 2 emergency exits on the site, on the very north of the new building and on the very south of the existing building. Wayne Esseltine and I met about this, and he was fine with having those 2 emergency exits. We have no entry at the center point that you're talking about, no exit or entry at that point. So we have just the 2 emergency exits.
I just raised a question that it might make sense to have some type of emergency exit at that point, that would be only used in the case of an emergency, but I'll leave that to the engineers to figure out, but I think it's a valid concern. And, to Mr. Mauty's comment, there is a retention area inside the fence on the Fulton Way.
Yeah, it's just 1 foot deep.
Yeah,
That's 1 foot deep, just to
it's
slow
okay.
down the flow of the
Yeah, it's only 1
drainage,
foot.
yeah.
And I know there's connections, to the 2 front ones on Roseland, but there is a detention
The
area.
retention for that purpose is just slow down the flow so it won't run straight to the Fulton Avenue. So that's the purpose. And it's only 1 foot deep.
Yep, that one is correct.
Regarding the emergency exits, could I add something to that, please? Regarding your comment about the emergency exits. The children will be supervised while they're in play outside. If there's a fire happening in the buildings or in the playground area, the emergency gates are only openable by can only be opened by an adult because the barrel closure is higher than even a 5-year-old can reach. So the staff that's working there will know how to funnel the kids during an emergency out of both these exits on the north of the existing building, on the north of the new building and the south of the existing one. And those gates will only open out and allow the kids to run out on a sidewalk to the public right-of-way.
Okay, just a question I had, because looking at the drawings, I thought, if, you know, with the 2 buildings there, and it's kind of like an alleyway leading up to it, it's a dead end.
Right.
With no way out, so.
Right.
Just a question.
Anyone else?
I have one question to ask. What's the current enrollment? The current enrollment of children?
I think it's 70 kids.
No, that's a license there, but the enrollment is, I think, 50 right now.
Thanks.
I'm fine.
Okay.
You show removing in that rear retention pond, you're gonna remove that wood fence that's coming across it?
Yes,
And then there's a 4-foot.
We're putting a new wood fence.
Right, and then there's a 4-foot metal fence that's to
Yeah, we're
remain.
removing that. Yeah, we're removing that.
There is no plan on continuing that 4-foot fence over to the
No.
building?
No.
I'm just looking at this new bike path, so all right, that's a dry retention area there, it's just flowing out
It's a
into
dry,
Fulton,
yeah,
you say?
it's a all green area there around it.
Okay.
There is no concrete surface.
It's being played in now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
No other questions? We'd like to open the floor to anyone who is opposed, opposed to this project. Please identify yourself and spell your name.
Stephen with a V, last name is Steinacher, S-T-E-I-N-A-C-H-E-R. Good evening. I own a house at 850 Riviera, which is right across the street from the proposed building, and I have a couple of questions. Right now, what is the current enrollment? I believe somebody said 50. What is their maximum that they can go up to with their present certification?
70.
70. So you know that they're going to have 20 more children there as soon as the new facility is finished. My concern now is with the noise that's generated from the children and also the traffic. We're going to have more cars going up and down Riviera. Riviera now is used as a cut-through street, okay? So now we're going to be adding more cars to that. Also, I would like to ask whether the wooden fence that's there now is going to be replaced with another fence.
Yes,
What type?
6-foot wood fence.
Oh, okay, so it'd be a new fence.
The whole new fence.
Okay, now, the way I see it is we're not gonna be able to stop progress, but what I would like is some extra landscaping on Riviera. Because as it is now, it's just gonna be more, more noise and more traffic.
Yeah, there's more bushes and more tree there on that side.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, this is a public hearing.
Yeah.
Not a
So
discussion.
please, this isn't a discussion, and the applicant is able to answer questions after
Right.
the citizen has asked the
Thank you.
questions. Thank you.
And the applicant will address those concerns for you?
And also, too, that they're moving a shed from its present location to another location. Is there going to be landscaping around the shed? Because the shed will be standing out at the corner of Riviera and Fulton. So my main concern is I would just like more landscaping, because I know I can't stop the project.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Is anyone else, we'll save it all for one point. Anybody else opposed? Okay, if you will address his concerns?
Yes, for his landscaping question, there'll be bushes and understory tree we'll be planting. If you see the landscape plan, there's more bushes and understory tree on that thing. And also the shed will be moving in the back corner, and shed will be inside the property and covered by the fence, 6-foot fence. It won't be exposed. Okay. And what's the other question he has? Right now, the enrollment is 50 kids, and they are licensed for 70 kids. That's the question he has, so.
Okay, staff?
Commissioners, I'm
summarize
just going
for
to,
us,
with
please?
regards to the landscaping, and the plan, the sheet C7 does show some new palms going in and some viburnum hedge. They're being planted at 3 feet tall, 24 inches on center. Maybe consideration, though, is that I know hedges, usually landscapers will trim them down once they're established, back down to 24 inches or all, but maybe you would like to make a condition that those hedges, viburnum hedges aren't, so they create more of a 4 to 5 to 6 foot type of buffer. The conditional use criteria requires on rear and side yards to have an opaque buffer adjacent to residential uses. This was an unusual site because they're all front yards, but there is going to be the wood fence, so they meet that condition anyways. But with regards to noise, the landscape buffer could be used as the landscaping could be used as a buffer for noise, and that could be a condition that if you just want those new plants to not be cut down and to create more of a fuller hedge for some additional noise buffering.
Members? Any deliberation?
In regard to what Dory had said, verbatim, that they use for hedges grow quite well, and I have a 10-foot perimeter around my whole property. So those do grow hardy, and they do make a great sound barrier. So it's something I think the staff should consider, having those hedges held at a certain height to provide the additional barrier. And it will also act as a noise break.
Could you incorporate that?
Well, not that we're changing the amount, because there is, he does have
Right.
the calculations and how they're replanted, but just the condition that they
keep them,
don't be cut down or allowed to create more of a, what we call a type A buffer. a 5 to 6 foot hedge.
If they go higher, would that be any sight problem for vehicular traffic?
I don't believe it is. I know where the stop bar is out onto Riviera, but there's still a good 20 feet of that right of way before you're actually turning onto the road. And we can certainly look into that, but it's not going to be right there at the driveway.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have anything?
I'm fine.
Okay, then I will call for a motion.
I'll make a motion, that we approve, the Sunshine Early Learning Center site plan modification for 2150 building addition, with the following conditions. If state license operational capacity changes in the future, the site plan will be revisited with regard to parking requirements and the conditional use criteria.
Do we have a second to that motion?
Excuse me, and also, on that note, there's, page 7, in the bottom, says a motion is made to approve the application. The comments were to provide evidence for the proposed. We had that also on page 7, the bottom.
The consulting engineer, additional comments?
Is that part of the approval? Is that what it says there? Do we need to approve that?
That's all they're licensed to have.
Yeah,
Sorry?
that's all they're licensed to have? They cannot have more than that?
No, if you look at page 7 in the bottom.
Right.
So after reviewing the revised plans, MB Engineer had 3 additional comments that have been not added to the site plan as of yet. If a motion is made to approve the application, a condition should be added that the comments are addressed. The comments were, 1, provide inverts for the proposed 12-inch ADS pipe connection to 2 detention areas. 2, provide a section detail of the grass parking area. And 3, place a one-way only sign along the driveway leaving the parking lot heading north.
Thank you. Can we incorporate that into your motion?
Yes.
Well, that's part of what it says there, correct? Is that what it
Yes,
says?
and that was the
Thank
second condition on page 9 that staff had recommended. But we had, and also, Commissioners, if you could add the third condition of creating an
Oh, okay, I'm
opaque
sorry.
type landscape buffer
Okay,
I'm sorry.
on that Riviera side.
so we're going to add the opaque landscape buffer as well. Now, can we have a second to that motion?
Yes, I'll second that.
All right. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Cottenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Eugen?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Roth?
Yes?
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Alvarez?
Yes.
Mr. Hazelbosch does not vote. So, that is, 6 in favor.
Unanimous.
Okay.
Does the trick.
Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, back to our agenda. Next item on our agenda is unfinished business, and we have none, so we will move to public input.
Ben Hocker, Sebastian, Hocker. It's just a comment on not requesting, I guess you forgot, public input on the initial garage addition to the properties. I had basically 2 questions. You said the gentleman purchased an adjacent piece of property. Has it been merged into one piece of property?
That was addressed, sir.
It was addressed
Yes.
and it was
Yes.
attached.
Unity of title.
Then that leaves then I was looking at the fact it could be converted into a mother-daughter or a guest house. And then if it had not been developed, or married together, it would have been a separate sellable piece of property.
All right. Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay. Commission matters.
Yes, I'd like to make a recommendation that, we may, I'm not saying, Joe Griffin's gonna be retiring May 9th. He's been a public servant here for the city of Sebastian for a good number of years, a good quality man. I'd like to see the board offer our recommendation to have a good retirement. He's been well-deserved and a good employee of the city, and has the city at its heart at all times, Just would like to make a proclamation to that effect.
I'll second it wholeheartedly.
Okay, and let's have a voice vote, loud and clear.
Yes.
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 Mr. Kieselbach, anything?
No, that's it.
Anyone else? No one else? Wow.
Staff matters, I guess, I don't know.
Okay. City attorney matters?
Nothing? Thank you.
Staff?
Actually, very quickly, again, 2 of the commissioners have already signed up for the Planning Growth Management Workshop to be held on June 7th, and I'd like to commend them for their jumping on board. I also want to make sure that you all know that the Atlantic Coast section of the APA, which I'm past chair and now treasurer, we are willing to pay for your participation in that workshop. If you recall, it's about $125. It includes breakfast and lunch, and it's June 7th. And if you'd like to attend, please just send me an email.
And where is that being held?
Here, right here in the City Hall.
Yeah.
Okay?
You can sign me up.
During the day.
Well, and that is
during the
why
week.
we will probably not have a planning and zoning board meeting on June 7th, because we will be having the workshop on June 7th.
Put my name on the list.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are nothing else, then this meeting is formally adjourned.